Unconfirmed estimates suggest that if built, nuclear power stations may cost around 1 trillion rands and be the country's biggest procurement yet. Eskom, on the other hand, has suggested that the nuclear utility could pay for the nuclear build program because it would have accumulated cash reserves of around 150 billion rands over the next decade. It says given the roughly 80-year lifespan of nuclear plants, the program would pay for itself over those decades. Chief Nuclear Officer at Eskom, David Nichols, says the utility is in the process of preparing proposals to go to the market. Eskom will approach countries who are already using nuclear for help.
We are going out with an open proposal to the marketplace, say who wants to supply it. Buying a nuclear power station is a bit different to buying a coal station. Primarily because with Medupi and Kusile we specified the individual components, we specified the overall size of the plant. With a nuclear program you end up, like buying a motor car, you end up going and saying, I want to buy a motor car, what have you got to offer me? So you take the design that they're currently building, and the key comment to us is that we must end up with a standardized design that somebody else is already building, so we don't find ourselves in the first of a class. And again, like buying a motor car, you expect the supplier or the supply consortium to provide the financing for the deal. And that's very classical in the industry, is that you get the vast majority of the funding from the supplier. So as to who we're looking at, I can only comment that we've been open bid, so whoever comes in. But the logical countries, and it's a country level bid, although it may be a commercial bid, it almost certainly will be based on a country-based consortium, would be classically the French, the Americans, the Russians, the Chinese, the South Koreans, and possibly Japanese. Those are the people who today, in the last few years, have been building the kind of reactor we're looking to acquire, which is a pressurized water reactor.
Some have argued that South Africa does not need a fleet of nuclear power plants. Firstly, because it's experiencing a dwindling demand scenario for power as the energy intensity is decreasing. And secondly, because the country's ability to access alternative sources of power has improved significantly. But Nichols disagrees.
There is a view which says that we don't need the power and that growth of power is not going to happen. That is not the case in the world economy as a whole. It's not the case in any major economy. The only time in which a country goes on growing and has less power demand is when it goes into a knowledge-based economy, like the Europeans or the Americans. I do not believe we're yet at that stage. We will get there one day, hopefully, but at the moment I don't believe this country is in a stage where we can say we're going to move from a heavy industrial mining base to a knowledge-based economy base.
The Department of Energy will on Tuesday announce the draft of the Integrated Resource Plan as well as the Integrated Energy Plan documents. Diabo Seito, SABC News, Johannesburg.